Let's start with a massive paradox. We are, without a doubt, the most digitally hyper-connected society in human history. Yet, behind all the screens, we are suffering from a hidden, silent epidemic of physical isolation. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the cutting-edge science, revealing that loneliness isn't just some fleeting, sad emotion. No, it is a severe physiological state. We're going to see exactly how it fundamentally alters your neurobiology, completely disrupts your sleep optimization, and literally accelerates your aging at a cellular level.
So here's our roadmap for today's masterclass. First, the epidemic of loneliness. Then, the biology of isolation. Third, brain health and cognitive decline. Fourth, the antidote of connection. And finally, rebuilding social infrastructure.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the epidemic of loneliness, a hidden public health crisis.
Okay, get ready for this because the data here is absolutely staggering. According to comprehensive meta-analyses highlighted by the U.S. Surgeon General, lacking social connection carries a mortality impact equivalent to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in for a second. 15 cigarettes a day. The physiological wear and tear, the exact impact on your cellular aging and your metabolic health from human isolation is literally on par with a heavy daily tobacco habit. It's a reality check that absolutely demands we take our social health just as seriously as our clinical risk factors.
Now, the nuance here is absolutely critical, especially when we start looking at our micromental health. We really have to separate the objective from the subjective. You see, you can be objectively socially isolated, meaning you physically live alone and just have very few social contacts. But conversely, you can be surrounded by people in a bustling city or at a crowded party and still experience profound subjective loneliness because you lack deep, meaningful relationships. And here is the fascinating part. The human brain actually cannot tell the difference between physical isolation and the subjective feeling of being misunderstood in a crowd. Both of these trigger the exact same neurobiological stress cascades, and both independently predict premature mortality.
When we benchmark this social disconnection against traditional lifestyle hazards that we hear about all the time, the numbers are just shocking. Objective social isolation drives a 29% escalation in premature mortality. Subjective loneliness, that is twice as harmful as clinical obesity, and simply living alone raises your mortality risk by 32%, actually making it deadlier than chronic physical inactivity. So, just existing in an isolated state acts as this constant low-grade drain on our health span and our lifelong vitality.
Which brings us to section 2, the biology of isolation, moving way beyond just the emotion.
Think about this evolutionarily. Being separated from our tribe meant imminent danger, right? It meant predators. So when we are chronically isolated today, our body loses its natural protective buffer, and we are totally dominated by the stress response. We see these elevated levels of a neuropeptide called vasopressin, which basically locks the brain into a state of hypervigilance. It fires up the HPA axis, our primary stress system, flooding the body with cortisol. And this prolonged HPA activation doesn't just make us feel anxious. It directly ruins our circadian rhythms and fragments our sleep architecture. The lonely brain essentially never gets to truly recover because it is stuck, biologically, in a state of perpetual survival. And when your body is trapped in that hypervigilant, high cortisol overdrive for too long, interconnected systems just begin to break down. This chronic stress alters your gut microbiome, which then signals systemic vascular damage, leading to this chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation. Your immune system gets impaired, and your vascular system actually ages faster. The direct clinical result of this biological cascade? Severe cardiovascular consequences. We're talking a 29% increase in the risk of heart disease and a 32% increase in the risk of suffering a stroke. Let's transition to section 3, brain health and cognitive decline, or what we can call the use it or lose it principle. You know, an active social life is fundamentally high-level cognitive endurance training. Just think about the real-time processing required in a simple, everyday conversation. You have to interpret social cues, recall information on the fly, and rapidly formulate your responses. This kind of social navigation requires immense attention network activation. By stimulating these neural circuits regularly, whether through group learning, creative activities, or volunteering, we leverage neuroplasticity. We are actively building up our cognitive reserve. We're rewiring the brain to preserve cognitive function and focus as we age. It's literally a workout for your brain. And the payoff for that workout is huge. Extensive research reviewing 148 different studies reveals a stunning truth about human longevity. Strong social connections actually increase our overall odds of survival by an astounding 50%. When we look at biological age, connection doesn't just protect you from disease, it actively extends your lifespan. It is arguably the most potent anti-aging intervention we possess. So let's look at the flip side in Section 4, the antidote of connection and the incredible power of oxytocin.
It's amazing how simple things, just positive daily interactions, a warm physical touch, sustained eye contact, all of these stimulate the release of oxytocin in the brain. And oxytocin is an incredible allostatic regulator. It directly downregulates that overactive HPA stress axis we talked about earlier. It neutralizes the stress hormone cortisol, and it lowers your blood pressure. But behaviorally, it does something even more profound. It actively shifts our internal state from self-preservation and fear right into pro-social engagement. Connection literally breeds emotional resilience.
Moving into our final part, Section 5, rebuilding social infrastructure, which is the public health solution. Because this isn't just an individual problem. The U.S. Surgeon General's framework illustrates the exact national strategy we need to heal our society. It moves the burden off of just you and me, acknowledging that our modern built environments and our digital overload are the actual root causes of this societal fragmentation. To fix this, we have to fundamentally redesign our structural environments. First, building up local infrastructure, like parks and libraries, so people naturally collide and interact in the real world. Second, enacting pro-connection policies where housing and transport actually prioritize community cohesion. Third, mobilizing the health sector to treat isolation with social prescribing. And crucially, the fourth step, reforming our digital environments. We absolutely must intervene against the attention fragmentation and constant stimulation of modern technology, because right now it is driving our cognitive decline and pulling us further and further away from deep, real-world human interactions.
As this quote perfectly captures, connection is not just some pleasant luxury. It's not just a nice to have. It is a deep, evolutionary, and vital biological necessity for longevity. Our bodies read isolation as danger, and they read connection as safety. When extreme stress or environmental crises hit, the strength of our connected communities is literally a matter of survival.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with a challenge. Knowing the profound physiological impact that isolation has on your cellular aging, your heart, and your neurobiology, what actionable step are you going to take? In an era totally obsessed with wearable technology and biohacking, the most profound intervention for your longevity, your sleep optimization, and your brain health is completely free. It's human connection. So, how will you build a connection today? Because your biology is depending on it.